Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're immersing ourselves in what is, well, it's a highly concentrated character study.
It really is. The sources we're looking at today feel so tightly wound, almost like a psychological thriller.
Right. And it's all set in this very unassuming location, a small waterfront bar called Jess's in Widow's Cove, Maine.
Exactly. And our mission for this deep dive is, I think, a crucial one. We're going to be extracting knowledge about how generational trauma can, profoundly affect every single personal choice someone makes,
Everything from career paths to marriage.
to even the basic question of whether you can allow yourself to become a parent. And we're going to track how a sudden external crisis, in this case the appearance of a runaway child, acts as a catalyst.
It doesn't just interrupt their lives.
No, it forces a confrontation. It forces a long, long overdue reconciliation.
And the whole narrative, it really flows along three powerful interwoven threads, all of them centered right there in Molly Creighton's bar.
Right, so first you have the immediate crisis, the professional and moral dilemma of the runaway, Kendra Morrow.
Then there's the second thread, which is this incredibly volatile, bitter, but, you can't deny the passion, this romantic conflict between Molly and Daniel Devaney.
He's the man she holds responsible for her deepest heartbreak, and that's putting it mildly.
It is. And then there's the third thread, and this is, you could argue, the engine driving the whole story.
The secret.
The massive 30-year-old family secret that really defines who Daniel is. His rigidity, his fears, it all comes back to the abandonment of the older Devaney brothers.
And these threads aren't separate, are they? They're constantly crashing into one another, creating this unavoidable momentum toward catharsis. So I think we have to start right at the beginning.
With Kendra.
With the immediate ethical challenge that breaks this 4-year stalemate between Molly and Daniel.
Okay, so the stage is set with this deep sense of vulnerability. It's late, well past closing at Jess's, and Molly is already fragile. We learn it's the anniversary of a really devastating personal loss for her.
The miscarriage she suffered 4 years prior.
Exactly. So she's just going through the motions of cleaning, and then she hears a noise. Her first reaction is pure defense, right? She grabs a bottle.
And what she finds is, well, it's a petite, dark-haired girl, Kendra. She's maybe 13, 14 years old, hiding in a booth.
And she's just running on pure adrenaline and, flimsy excuses. She's clearly terrified.
But Molly's reaction, it's immediate and it's almost overwhelming. It's all about protection.
It's a classic case of projection, isn't it? She sees this vulnerable girl and in her, a kindred spirit.
You have to wonder if she's seeing the child she lost, or maybe even a younger, more traumatized version of herself.
I think that projection is fascinating because it colors her judgment instantly. She offers her food, ham and cheese, tuna salad, or her very specific personal comfort food.
Peanut butter and pickles.
Peanut butter and pickles. I have to ask you, why is that detail so important? In the context of a runaway, what does that tell us?
It's a brilliant little piece of sourcing because it immediately establishes the nature of Kendra's distress. When Kendra's response to peanut butter and pickles is a flat yuck, we know something important.
What's that?
We know she's not running from actual physical deprivation. This isn't a story about neglect or starvation.
Okay.
She's running from something entirely psychological, something that has warped her sense of safety, even though she clearly has access to, normal food.
Right. And recognizing that, Molly immediately offers her a job. She's already emotionally invested. She tries to get at the root of the terror, sensing it's not physical.
And she asks this deeply personal, loaded question that just reveals so much about her own unprocessed pain regarding Daniel.
She asks, did you sit down and talk to whoever hurt you?
She's trying to solve her own past through Kendra's present dilemma. Her trauma is hardening her resolve to protect this child, and it's making her ready for a fight.
And that fight literally walks right through the door.
In the form of Daniel Devaney.
Daniel, the local child advocate for the state, which right away is an occupation layered with irony, isn't it?
Absolutely. The sources paint him as incredibly rigid, logical, methodical. We learn that he sticks to the rules and procedures so strictly because it's the only way he can cope with the messy emotions of his job.
And this is the first essential piece of knowledge we can really extract, I think. Daniel's rigidity isn't just a personality flaw.
No, it's a profound overcompensation. It's a shield designed to protect him from the very chaos and unpredictability that defined his own childhood trauma.
The abandonment of his brothers.
Exactly. He chose a career saving kids in trouble to prove, mostly to himself, that he's the absolute opposite of his father.
But this hyper-structured defense mechanism he's built is immediately challenged by Kendra.
It is. He recognizes runaways like her. Her eyes are described as haunted. He knows she's what they call a heartbreaker, a case that just won't fit neatly into the black and white regulations he lives by.
So he's already conflicted before he even sees her.
Deep
And he doesn't even have to look for her, does he? He gets a tip.
from Detective Joe Sutton, who's getting lunch at Jess's, which is famous, of course, for having the best chowder on the coast.
A nice little detail.
It is. Sutton tips Daniel off, and Daniel knows exactly where to look. He knows Molly's protective nature. He knows she has a tendency to hide the vulnerable.
And what happens next is just an explosion. It reveals the full depth of the emotional chasm between them.
Molly just flat out refuses to admit Kendra is there. She instantly weaponizes her contempt for him.
She goes right for his identity, mocking his snobbery, the monogrammed cuffs, the Italian leather loafers.
Things that scream downtown Portland, not rugged small-town Maine. She's essentially calling him an outsider, a bureaucrat.
It's a calculated attack on his identity as a government man, but she saves the most cutting blow for last.
She throws his past failure to be a father right back in his face. She uses his profession against his own history. It's brutal.
And she's not alone in this fight. The whole town seems to back her up.
The town circles the wagons instantly. Retta, the longtime cook, and really a surrogate matriarch to Molly, steps right in.
And her warning to Daniel isn't professional. It's fiercely emotional.
She says, "You broke my baby's heart. Don't go doing it again." It's a direct threat.
And even Patrick, his own twin brother, his closest ally,
Offers zero information. He shuts him down completely. Molly's entire support structure is actively concealing a state-level investigation. It just highlights how much loyalty she commands in Widow's Cove.
which puts Daniel in an absolutely impossible position professionally.
He's a man of rules. He lives by the book. Yet he and Joe Sutton make this extraordinary, job-risking ethical concession.
They agree to delay mandated action. They're supposed to immediately return the child to her parents.
But they don't. They delay it based purely on gut instinct. They agree that, and this is a quote, "Good kids, smart kids, don't take off from perfect parents just for the thrill of it."
This is a critical point that we need to analyze. What exactly is the risk here for them?
Oh, the risk is enormous. Daniel is staking his entire career, and Joe Sutton is risking his badge.
Because under state protocol, they have to remove a runaway child and attempt reunification immediately.
Unless there's clear evidence of physical danger or abuse, which Kendra has explicitly denied, there's no physical evidence here.
So by delaying, they're choosing the long-term well-being of the child over legally binding bureaucracy, all based on a hunch that the parents are the real source of the problem.
Exactly. Daniel's essentially creating a 24-hour grace period for Molly to convince Kendra to talk. He's even pushing back against his superior, Chief Williams, for a full day.
Which proves that his professional instinct, the one born from his own trauma, prioritizes the child's actual well-being over the rigid system he usually hides behind.
And that risk pays off dramatically. When Kendra finally agrees to meet with both of them at Jess's, she's still suspicious. She thinks Daniel is just trying to score points with Molly.
But she finally gives up the truth. And the real reason she ran away is, well, it's heartbreaking. It's a tragedy of ambition.
It is. Kendra is an extreme overachiever. Straight A student, already a high school junior at just 13 years old.
And her parents are pushing her to graduate early, go immediately to a top-tier Ivy League school.
So Kendra's goal in running away was to fail her classes. She was trying to intentionally sabotage her academic future.
So she'd have to stay back.
So she'd have to stay back, be with kids her own age, and avoid being sent away to a college she was terrified of.
This changes everything. It's not physical abuse, but it's this profound psychological pressure. It's a case of parental pride, just completely steamrolling a child's happiness.
And Daniel recognizes it instantly. He sees the parents' love, but he also sees their crushing ambition. His reaction is immediate and deeply sympathetic.
This is the moment, I think, where Daniel truly chooses empathy. He chooses to apply his experience over the cold, hard rules.
Yes. He immediately vows to fight for Kendra. He assures her parents that Kendra's vote, her desires, will be the most important vote of all.
And in doing that, using his position to protect the child from the very system designed to protect her, he solidifies Molly's renewed, if very tentative, trust in him. He shows her he's capable of genuine human judgment.
And that ability to prioritize the human element over protocol is absolutely essential, because that trust is about to be tested again and again as they dive headlong into their own volatile history.
Okay, let's unpack this long, very messy history between Molly and Daniel. They were high school sweethearts, the classic opposites.
She was the free spirit who embraced life. He was the uptight stickler for rules.
Their passion was always described as explosive, but 4 years ago, a pregnancy forced a necessary confrontation about their future together.
And this is where the generational trauma of the Devaney family became a truly destructive force in their relationship. Daniel reacted to the news of the pregnancy not with joy or even simple fear, but with horror.
Total revulsion. He cited the family secret, his father abandoning his older brothers, as irrefutable proof that he was somehow genetically or psychologically incapable of being a good parent.
He genuinely believed, and probably told Molly in no uncertain terms, that any child would be better off without a Devaney in its life.
Which is just the ultimate expression of survivor's guilt, isn't it? That deep fear of repetition.
And the tragedy is so immediate and immense. Molly miscarried that very same night. Daniel's rejection and his emotional shutdown directly contributed to that devastation.
It's also so important to note Patrick's role here.
Crucial. It was Patrick, Daniel's own twin, who took Molly to the hospital. He provided the steady, supportive presence that Daniel just couldn't manage.
And that cemented the rift. It ensured that Molly's trauma was forever linked to Daniel's family secret and his self-hatred.
And since then, nothing. They hadn't exchanged a single civil word. Daniel lived with the knowledge that he didn't deserve her forgiveness.
While Patrick continued to help Molly through the yearly trauma of the anniversary, making Daniel's absence all the more profound.
And yet, despite all that bitterness, all those years of anger, the physical connection, that spark, it never truly died.
Daniel himself recognizes this. He admits to himself that hate was the flip side of love. The passion had always been passionate and volatile for years.
Right. And now, being forced together to deal with Kendra, that long-suppressed attraction it comes up first as emotional warfare.
They use the Kendra situation to fire their most devastating personal shots at each other.
When Daniel pressures Molly about the state's involvement, she lashes out with this utterly devastating line. She says Kendra is better off on her own.
But she's not just talking about Kendra.
Oh, not at all. She's talking about their lost child, their lost future, her own abandonment. And the sources note that Daniel actually winced at those words. It confirms they still have the power to wound him profoundly.
And he tries to defend the indefensible, clinging to his old narrative.
I won't hurt her, Molly, and I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to protect you. This claim of protection is his ultimate defense mechanism. The idea that his rejection 4 years ago was some kind of selfless act to save her from his own toxicity.
But Molly just cuts right through that pretense. She demands the truth. Is that what you call turning your back on your own baby and on the woman you claim to love? Protection.
And that's the breaking point. He has to finally surrender his emotional defenses. He has to admit, not just to Molly, but probably to himself for the first time, that his actions were stupid and careless.
An apology 4 years too late, but it's the only thing that could have possibly cleared a path for them.
The emotional intensity is so high that Molly eventually agrees to a secret rendezvous. She agrees to meet him at a new inn outside of town.
Specifically to avoid the small-town gossip that would erupt if they were seen together.
That act of secrecy is, in itself, a form of commitment. But it's one Molly grounds in reality. She feels better knowing that Retta, her surrogate grandparent, knows about the date. She calls it a proxy blessing from her late grandfather, Jess.
Molly approaches this with her eyes wide open. She keeps her unique personality, laughing that she's a modern woman who can multitask.
Meaning she intends to both talk and have sex at the same time.
Right. This signals she's not just going to be swept away by passion. This reconnection has to address the underlying issues while also satisfying that undeniable physical attraction.
And the rendezvous itself is described as deliberately lavish. Steaks, champagne, chocolate mousse with extra whipped cream, which Molly has specific plans for.
This extravagance, it feels like a direct reaction to the deprivation and trauma they've both been through.
It is. And then you have that incredible moment in the elevator. Daniel kisses her with such immediate, raw passion that an elderly woman witnesses it.
And she's charmed by it. She asks if they're honeymooners.
That seemingly minor detail is so important. This elderly woman, a totally objective third party, she sees them not through the lens of their bitterness and trauma, but through the lens of pure, hopeful romance.
It's like a confirmation from the outside world that the underlying love, the potential for a fresh start, is still visible.
But the real turning point, the genuine psychological shift, happens after they make love. Daniel realizes he didn't use protection.
And instead of the paralyzing panic that gripped him 4 years ago,
the sources say an amazing sense of peace steals over him. This is the moment of genuine healing. The fear of repeating that generational trauma has momentarily lifted, replaced by a willingness to just embrace the future.
And he immediately proposes, which, let's pause here. Isn't Molly right to be skeptical? A sudden proposal right after realizing he might have caused another pregnancy.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds suspiciously like a classic trauma response, a panicked attempt to immediately fix the chaos he created 4 years ago by turning the problem into a solution.
That is the essential probing question, and Molly demands to know exactly that. She asks if his words were just pretty words uttered in the heat of the moment, designed to make him feel better.
And Daniel's response is the key.
It's the key differentiator. He assures her he meant the proposal, regardless of any baby. And then he explains his initial relief. He says he was only grateful he hadn't cost you the chance to have them children.
So the relief wasn't about his liability or his fear of fatherhood.
No, it was about confirming that Molly's body and her chance at motherhood were safe.
He framed his concern around her, not himself.
Exactly. And when he does that, Molly believes him. She says, "It's about more than sex for me, too." And they seal this new connection with a powerful vow.
If one of us is getting it all wrong, we have to get it out in the open. We can't run from it.
They are explicitly vowing to break the Devaney family cycle of secrecy and running. And that clears the way for Daniel to finally address the absolute core of the issue, the family legacy.
Which brings us to the psychological engine of the entire story, the Devaney legacy. Daniel's decades of commitment issues, his fear of fatherhood, his entire identity conflict. It all stems from his parents, Connor and Kathleen Devaney.
And the almost unthinkable act they committed. They abandoned Daniel's 3 older brothers, Ryan, Sean, and Michael, in Boston years ago.
And took only the twins, Patrick and Daniel, to start a new life in Maine.
The depth of this secret is just extraordinary. Daniel, riddled with survivor's guilt, has spent his entire life trying to defend his parents' actions. He clings to this idea that they were flawed, but not monsters.
And this defensiveness caused a deep, agonizing rift with Patrick.
Because Patrick saw his brother as defending the unconscionable. He's the one who hammered home the brutal reality. It could just as easily have been us they left behind.
That sentence is so critical. It shows Patrick's pragmatism, his lack of sentimentality about their parents. It's such a sharp contrast to Daniel's need for loyalty.
Right. And Daniel was left constantly wrestling with these questions of abandonment. Had foster care been kind to them? Or had the system failed them just as their own parents had?
So the fact that he felt compelled to become a child advocate is the ultimate manifestation of his guilt and fear.
He needed a system, a profession, that allowed him to actively fix the abandonment his parents perpetuated. His rigidity, those monogrammed cuffs, they were all just armor against the psychological chaos of being a chosen survivor.
And this 30-year-old secret just blows up, spectacularly and unexpectedly.
Ryan, Sean, and Michael, along with their own families, arrive in Widow's Cove completely unannounced.
The crisis is so intense that Daniel has to postpone the Kendra meeting, a massive professional emergency, to handle this family emergency.
Which implicitly states the source material's message, doesn't it? Daniel's immediate professional life is secondary to resolving the source of his generational trauma.
The scene in the house is just emotionally brutal. The older brothers, they're not there to yell, they're there to recall.
They bring up these specific nostalgic details. Their mother's pecan coffee cake, the specific way she made spaghetti with a spoonful of sugar. It shows they remember the love.
But the core memory is the trauma.
It is. Michael, the youngest, cuts right through the nostalgia. He says the one thing he remembers is simply being left behind.
Which forces Kathleen, the mother, into tears. She realizes the depth of the pain was never abstract, it was specific and real.
And Daniel, still protective, tries to shield his mother. But Patrick intervenes. He insists their brothers are entitled to their say.
And the twins fight again. Daniel insists their parents were not the scum of the earth, while Patrick demands his brother stop being willfully blind.
It's a massive moment for their relationship. Patrick is forcing Daniel to see the objective truth of the abandonment without any emotional filters.
And we also get this crucial insight into how the secrets were layered.
Yes. Kathleen confesses privately to Daniel that Connor, the father, had actually been tracking the older boys for years. He knew Ryan was in trouble. He knew Michael was a Navy SEAL.
But he kept it all a secret from her.
To protect her from the pain of separation. Which just confirms that the abandonment was wrapped in another layer of secrecy. Secrets kept not out of malice, but out of this misguided sense of love and protection.
And that kind of protection is often more insidious because it prevents any honest healing.
Absolutely. So the confrontation eventually moves to Jess's. the only neutral ground. Daniel and Patrick have to scheme to lure their parents there.
Daniel tells his father about the reunion only minutes before they walk in.
And Connor is immediately furious. He calls it a damn setup, threatens to leave, and insists he won't listen to his sons berate him.
He only agrees to stay because Kathleen pleads with him. She sees this as their last chance to make things right.
But the actual icebreaker, the moment that shatters decades of guilt and secrecy, it's not a complex argument. It's pure, uncomplicated innocence.
3-year-old Caitlin, Ryan's daughter, she breaks away from the family and hurls herself across the room at the grandfather she's never met.
And she demands, with zero filter, "Are you my grandpa?"
That simple question is the emotional detonator.
It is. Connor, the rigid patriarch who engineered the abandonment, he just scoops her up and starts weeping uncontrollably. His emotional defenses are completely shattered by this simple, innocent desire for connection.
The arrival of grandchildren, Caitlin and Kevin, Sean's son, who had no part in the trauma, it just bypasses decades of resentment and guilt.
Once that wall is down, Connor has to speak the truth. He takes full responsibility. He confirms to Ryan, "It was my decision. It's time I take responsibility for it."
And he finally explains his root motivation: financial desperation. He lost his job. They simply couldn't afford 3 more boys, especially with Kathleen pregnant with the difficult twins.
He says he deemed the older boys strong and independent enough to survive, hoping they'd find better homes. And he confirms he's regretted the decision every single day.
That financial context is so vital. It shifts the story from one of pure moral failure to a tragedy rooted in economic shame. Connor's inability to provide is what led to this horrific choice.
It shows the powerful generational theme of economic fear dictating moral actions.
And that context finally allows for forgiveness, starting with the twins. Patrick, feeling the weight of that secret finally lift, pulls Daniel into a hard embrace.
The first genuine show of forgiveness between them in years.
Patrick admits, "You weren't just my brother. You were my best friend. I want that back again."
And Connor solidifies his commitment to this new combined family. He agrees to come back the next morning and asks Molly for her grandfather's old-fashioned waffle recipe.
That simple domestic request is such a profound symbol. It's his commitment to being a grandfather, to building a future, not just dwelling in the past.
It's truly remarkable how the external crisis of Kendra forced Daniel and Molly back together.
And their reconciliation immediately cleared the emotional path for Daniel to force the confrontation that led to the full Devaney family reunion.
Every single action is connected to healing that foundational trauma.
So with the deepest wound of his past family trauma finally addressed and his relationship with Patrick restored, Daniel is finally ready. He's ready for the ultimate commitment: marrying Molly and doing it publicly.
The setting for the public proposal is, of course, Jess's. In front of the entire newly assembled, chaotic Devaney clan, including Ryan's and Sean's wives and children. Daniel is completely unburdened now. He no longer fears Retta's glare or the judgment of the town.
But Molly, still keenly aware of his past failures, doesn't make it easy for him.
No, she doesn't. She insists on a proper question and some groveling.
Which is essential, isn't it, to make sure this isn't just a spontaneous relief response from him.
Absolutely. And Patrick and the older brothers, now fully supportive, they start heckling Daniel to woo her properly. It's a great scene.
And Daniel uses the entire chaotic reunion as his justification for commitment. He frames their shared history not as a burden, but as proof of their resilience.
He declares that his reunited brothers and their families are proof that dreams can come true and that odds can be overcome. He's finally proposing based on hope, not on fear.
His declaration is raw and it's complete. He affirms his love, he acknowledges his past foolishness without any excuses, and asks her to marry him.
And specifically, he asks her to share this family with me, to have a family of our own.
The proposal isn't just about them as an isolated couple.
No, it's about establishing their branch firmly and securely within this newly repaired Devaney family tree.
And Daniel, the methodical planner, has prepared well.
He has. He gives Molly an engagement ring, which symbolizes the romance. But then he also demonstrates his commitment to her whole life by buying Retta and Molly a brand new dishwasher for the bar.
A practical gesture. It acknowledges and values her hard work. It shows he sees her not just as a lover, but as a full partner in life.
And Molly accepts. She recognizes that this time, Daniel is truly all in. He's fully aware of the consequences, and he's no longer running.
The epilogue just wraps up this generational healing with such a powerful sense of renewal and continuation.
It's set at the christening of Patrick and Alice's twins, a boy and a girl, and they are significantly named Connor and Kathleen,
After the very parents who caused the initial schism.
a huge sign of forgiveness. And Ryan's wife Maggie is also pregnant, confirming the explosive growth and vitality of this newly forged family.
And the ultimate satisfying conclusion for our central couple.
Molly is pregnant with Daniel's child.
And she reflects on their journey, noting that maybe they needed all this time, all this struggle to get to a point where their baby would be welcomed, surrounded by family.
The love isn't just stronger because of the struggle. The foundation is finally secure because all the secrets are gone.
And the final, complete act of generational healing is delivered through the Reformed patriarch. Connor Devaney, the father who abandoned his sons out of fear, is seen holding baby Connor.
And the sources note that the baby immediately falls silent in his arms.
That silence is such a powerful symbol. The baby, named after the man who created decades of noise and chaos, is instantly soothed by his presence.
It's the ultimate confirmation that Connor is no longer hiding or running.
Yeah.
He fully accepts the family's babysitting demands, proclaiming, "I think we have our family back."
The silence of that baby in the arms of the Reformed patriarch is the quiet, perfect symbol that the deep secrets have finally lost their power, and the Devaney bloodline is starting fresh.
So, to synthesize the core knowledge we've extracted from this complex narrative, first, I think we have to emphasize the profound link between trauma and professional choice.
Daniel's career as a child advocate.
It was a direct psychological overcompensation for his father's abandonment. His inability to commit to Molly stemmed entirely from his fear of repeating that generational failure. It just highlights how family history dictates our paths until it is actively confronted.
Second, we saw the essential power of ethical deviation when it's rooted in human intuition.
Right. Daniel and Joe's decision to bypass mandated state protocol based on a simple gut instinct saved Kendra from a miserable, ambition-crushing life.
It proves that for the well-informed, targeted application of experience and empathy must sometimes take precedence over rigid bureaucratic rules when human welfare is at stake.
And third, forgiveness. It is not a single event. It is a deliberate, often painful process. The Devaney reconciliation was only achievable after years of estrangement.
It required an external crisis
Can
and
we-
the innocent intervention of the grandchildren.
Caitlin demanding, "Are you my grandpa?" It took all of that to force the necessary confrontation and the confession about the financial root of the abandonment.
And that confession led directly to that critical vow Daniel made to Molly during their first honest night together. If one of us is getting it all wrong, we have to get it out in the open. We can't run from it.
So given the extraordinary depth of secrets in the Devaney family history, secrets kept out of fear, economic shame, and a misguided attempt at protection, and the profound illusion of control that Daniel maintained over his highly structured life.
The true deep dive for you, the listener, is this. What is the cost of maintaining that illusion of control through secrecy? And how long can you truly preserve that illusion before the deepest unresolved secrets of your past force a full, unavoidable confrontation that changes absolutely everything?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into second chances, deep secrets, and the true cost of generational abandonment.